The year was not far from our own time. Earth had grown strong, stronger than many had believed possible. Cities touched the clouds, ships sailed the dark between planets, and humans had walked on many moons. But compared to the greater galaxy, humanity was still young, still learning, still fragile. And then the message came. It did not arrive as sound, nor as light, but as a wave of thought carried across the stars. Every leader of Earth felt it at once, as if someone had whispered inside their mind. The voice was calm, patient, and old. It belonged to the Galactic Council, a gathering of powerful civilizations who ruled over thousands of star systems. Humanity, the voice said. The time has come. Join us in war against the Zyran Empire. If you fight with us, you will have allies. If you refuse, you will face them alone. The Zyrans. A name almost unknown to Earth, but feared across the galaxy. Their fleets were endless, their cruelty without limit. They burned worlds not for resources, but for dominance. The Council had fought them for centuries. And now, they demanded humanity's choice. Earth's leaders gathered in silence. They sat inside the United Terran Hall, a circle of glass and steel that looked down upon the blue oceans of the homeworld. Generals, scientists, presidents, and diplomats argued through the night. Some shouted, "We cannot fight in a war that is not ours." Others warned, "If we do nothing, the Zyrans will come for us next." The debate raged. Outside, billions of humans waited for the decision. On the news screens, anchors asked the same question again and again. Will humanity fight? At last, the answer was given. The Council of Earth declared before the galaxy, "We will not join this war. Earth shall not bleed for conflicts of others. We will remain neutral." The message echoed through the stars. To some alien worlds, this answer was laughable. They called humans arrogant, weak, and cowardly. "They hide behind their young age," sneered one alien chancellor. "They think their distance will protect them. Fools." Others pitied Earth. "They do not understand what is coming," whispered a gray-skinned elder from a dying colony. But humanity stood firm. They believed their walls were high enough, their fleets strong enough, their distance safe enough. They believed the war would pass them by. They were wrong. In the shadows of space, the Zyrans listened. They needed no invitation, no declaration. War was their nature. They had seen humans grow, and they hungered to test this new species. Far from Earth, a lonely mining station disappeared. No distress call, no survivors. Only silence. Then a transport ship arrived at Mars' orbit, filled with refugees from a distant system. They spoke of burning skies, of screaming worlds, of Zyran warships blotting out the stars. But the leaders of Earth closed their ears. "It is not our war," they repeated. "It will not come here." In the quiet nights, however, the people felt uneasy. The stars above seemed darker. The silence of deep space seemed heavier. Soldiers trained harder. Families stored food and water. No one said it aloud, but everyone felt it. Danger was coming. Then came the final warning. A listening post at the edge of the solar system picked up something strange. Shapes moving in the void. Too large for asteroids, too cold for natural bodies. The readings trembled, then vanished, as if swallowed by a great shadow. The commander of the post sent a message back to Earth. "Something is out here. Something vast." But the message never arrived. The post went silent. 4 days, Earth's command searched for answers. They found nothing. No ships, no signals, no survivors. The incident was buried, forgotten by the news. Yet in the darkness, fleets moved closer. Humanity had refused the war. But war does not need permission. It only needs a battlefield. And Earth was waiting. The weeks after Earth's refusal felt strangely calm. On the surface, life continued as usual. Cities glowed at night, children played in the streets, and ships carried people between Earth, the Moon, and Mars. It almost seemed as if the threat had been nothing but a distant story. But the silence was not peace. It was only the breath before the storm. The first signs were small. A colony ship returning from Proxima failed to arrive on schedule. At first, officials claimed it was a technical problem, a malfunction of the jump drive. Families waited for updates, but none came. Days turned to weeks, and still no word. Then came the refugees. Broken ships limped into the solar system, their hulls blackened, their crews starving. They spoke of destruction beyond imagination. Whole planets burned in hours. Space stations crushed like toys. Fleets of Zyran warships moving with perfect, merciless coordination. "They are not conquerors," whispered one survivor, his voice shaking. "They are harvesters. They come to take everything." The governments of Earth tried to quiet these stories. News channels showed smiling anchors. Officials gave speeches. Earth is safe. Humanity stands neutral. We are far from the war. But people were not fools. They saw the fear in the refugees' eyes. They heard the tremble in their voices. Whispers spread through the streets and homes. If the Zyrans could burn other worlds, what stopped them from coming here? On Mars, soldiers began drilling harder. On the Moon, engineers worked late nights strengthening defense satellites. Ordinary families started stocking water, food, and fuel. They called it precaution, but in their hearts they knew the truth. They were preparing for something unseen. And then the shadows grew darker. A listening post orbiting Neptune reported strange signals, low vibrations, like the echo of footsteps across the stars. At first, scientists believed it was background noise, a trick of deep space. But the signals repeated, steady, deliberate. Not noise. A pattern. The commander of the post wrote in her final report, "It feels like something is walking toward us. Slow, heavy, unstoppable." The report was sent back to Earth. Hours later, the station went silent. No distress call. No debris. It simply vanished, swallowed by the dark. The Council on Earth panicked. Emergency meetings stretched through the night. Some leaders demanded stronger defenses. Others begged to reopen talks with the Galactic Council, to ask for help. But pride still ruled the chamber. One voice declared, "We said no to their war. We will not crawl back now. Earth will stand alone." And so humanity waited. Days passed, then weeks. The stars above seemed normal again. The missing stations, the refugee warnings, many called them accidents, misunderstandings, exaggerations. But in secret, military satellites scanned the edges of the solar system, searching for shapes in the void. And then they found them. At first, it was only a flicker, too small to confirm. A shadow crossing between stars, then gone. Analysts debated for days, searching every detail. Some said it was a sensor error. Others said it was nothing but ice rocks. But one young officer, barely 30 years old, saw the truth. She showed the data to her commander and whispered, "It's a fleet, and it's moving straight toward us." The room fell silent. If she was right, then the war had already begun. Still, the council delayed. Still, they hesitated. They told themselves it could not be real, that Earth was too far, too small, too unimportant to be noticed by the Zyrans. But far beyond the orbit of Pluto, the truth was already burning. Small human outposts, stations with only a handful of workers, began to disappear one by one. No messages. No survivors. A miner on the edge of the Kuiper Belt sent one final transmission before his signal cut off. His words were short, broken by static, but clear enough to chill every listener. "They are here. They are watching us." Earth had wanted peace. Earth had refused the call to war. But the shadow of war was already falling across the solar system. And the shadow was moving closer. The shadow finally showed its face. It began as a whisper across the solar system's sensors. Dozens of hidden satellites picked up strange readings, energy spikes, faint signals, movements in the deep dark. For weeks, commanders argued if it was real. Then, one night, the truth appeared. The Zyrans arrived. They did not come quietly. They came like a storm. Massive ships, black as stone and sharp as blades, slid out of the void. They were larger than any human vessel, some stretching miles across. Their surfaces seemed alive, shifting like the skin of some ancient beast. The first human patrol ship to spot them tried to broadcast a warning. The message never reached Earth. The patrol was cut apart in seconds, shredded into dust by beams of white fire. When the report reached the United Terran Command, silence filled the war room. The generals stared at the screen as the data streamed in, hundreds of contacts, advancing information, directly toward the inner planets. Earth had wanted to stay neutral. But neutrality was dead. The first battle began near the orbit of Neptune. A small human defense fleet of 30 ships was stationed there. Frigates, cruisers, a few carriers. They were brave men and women, but they were not ready. The Xyrans fell upon them like predators. Human missiles streaked into the dark, human cannons roared, but it was like throwing stones at a hurricane. Xyran shields flared, unbroken. Their return fire was merciless. One by one, human ships burst into flame, their crews lost to the void. A captain's final broadcast reached Earth before his ship was destroyed. His voice was steady, but his last words carried both warning and defiance. They are too strong. But we will not run. Remember us. The transmission ended in static. On Earth, panic spread. News channels that had once laughed at alien wars now screamed with fear. Families crowded into bunkers. Cities lit up with emergency sirens. The leaders who had promised safety now stood pale, their promises broken. But amidst the fear, something else stirred. Human explorers, veterans who had lived far beyond the solar system, began to return. They were outcasts once. Men and women who had gone deeper into the galaxy than anyone else, facing dangers Earth had ignored. They came back scarred, hardened, carrying strange knowledge and strange weapons of their own. One of them, Commander Hale, spoke before the council. His voice was like iron. You refused the war. You thought it would not find you. But now it has come. And if you want to survive, you will fight. The chamber was silent. For the first time, leaders listened. The battles grew closer. Mars' orbit fell under attack, its defense grid overwhelmed in hours. The colonies screamed for help as Xyran warships cut through the skies. Human fleets fought with desperation, losing more ships than they destroyed. But they learned. Humans had always adapted. Always improvised. When the Xyrans crushed them head-on, the humans stopped fighting head-on. They hid their ships in asteroid belts, ambushed patrols, hacked into enemy transmissions. A small victory at Ceres proved the enemy could bleed. One Xyran cruiser destroyed by a human trap, its wreckage drifting through space. The galaxy had called humans weak. But weakness was only the beginning of strength. The Xyrans did not stop. Their fleet pushed toward Earth itself, relentless, unstoppable. The skies of the homeworld filled with fire as defense platforms armed themselves. Soldiers marched in the streets. Civilians prayed, prepared, and waited. And above them, hanging like a dark moon, the largest Xyran flagship appeared. It was not just a ship, it was a moving fortress, a mountain of steel and fire. Its weapons could erase cities. Its shields glowed like suns. It hung in the heavens, daring Earth to resist. For humanity, there was no choice left. They had refused the Galactic War. But the Galactic War had chosen them. The invasion had begun. And the real fight was only starting. The skies above Earth were burning, but humanity was not broken. In the weeks since the Xyrans had arrived, the planet had faced death and destruction. Cities lay in ruins, fleets were shattered, and panic had filled the hearts of billions. But humans were nothing if not stubborn. From the ashes of defeat, they began to fight back. Commander Hale led a small fleet hidden among the asteroid belt near Jupiter. There, he trained a new strategy, one the Xyrans did not expect. Humans learned to strike fast, vanish, and strike again. They used asteroids to hide ships, sending out decoys and traps. Each ambush brought hope. One cruiser destroyed, a small victory, but it mattered. On the moon, engineers worked day and night, converting mining bases into secret weapons factories. They built stealth drones, improvised missiles, and electronic warfare devices that could confuse Zyran sensors. Civilians helped too, carrying supplies, repairing ships, and feeding the fighters. Humanity had always survived by turning weakness into strength, and now they would prove it. Even the Zyrans noticed. Their generals watched as small, desperate human attacks slowed their advance. "They are stubborn," one said. "But they are clever. Do not underestimate them." The people of Earth called it the Shadow War. Small teams, hidden bases, secret strikes. No one could predict where the humans would appear next. The Zyrans, who had expected a quick conquest, found themselves facing resistance at every turn. At the same time, the Galactic Council watched silently. They had sent messages, reminders, and warnings to humanity. But Earth had refused their call. Now, secretly, some races began to whisper, "Perhaps these humans are not as weak as we thought." Hale's fleet scored their first major success near Saturn. A Zyran supply convoy, thought untouchable, was destroyed in a trap. The explosion lit up the rings, sending debris spiraling into space. For the first time, humans cheered. Hope was no longer just an idea. It was alive. On Earth, civilians followed every battle through news feeds and satellites. Children drew pictures of brave pilots. Families prayed for soldiers they had never met. Even in the face of destruction, the human spirit burned brightly. But the Zyrans would not give up. Their largest flagship, the mountain-sized fortress, moved toward Earth's orbit, ignoring minor losses. Its weapons could level entire cities in seconds. Hale knew that the final battle would come soon. He called a meeting with Earth's top commanders. The room was tense, filled with worry, but also determination. "We cannot match their numbers," Hale said, "but we can use our minds. Every asteroid, every satellite, every hidden base, we will turn it against them. If we are clever, if we are united, we can make them pay for every inch of ground they take." Engineers had a plan. They had captured alien technology from destroyed ships, studying it, learning its secrets. Hale's fleet would use it as a trap, a single strike aimed at the heart of the enemy flagship. It was risky. Failure meant the end of Earth itself. Meanwhile, humanity's reputation in the galaxy began to shift. Races that had mocked Earth now watched closely. "The stubborn ones," they whispered. "They fight when others flee. They endure when others fall." In the skies, the first signs of this new strategy were visible. Human ships darted in and out of asteroid fields, attacking enemy convoys, vanishing before the Zyrans could respond. On the ground, automated defenses struck at enemy drones, while engineers on the moon hacked enemy communications, feeding false information into their sensors. Every battle, every success, no matter how small, was a lesson. Humanity learned faster than the Zyrans could predict. They adapted, improvised, and refused to surrender. And in the darkness, Hale watched the horizon. The massive flagship loomed closer. Earth's orbit would soon become the final battlefield. The humans were ready, but the cost would be high. One thing was certain: Earth had been underestimated. The galaxy had seen humans as weak, unready, and foolish. But now, the stubborn spirit of a species that refused to bow, refused to flee, refused to die, would prove that humanity was not to be ignored. The war had found them. Humanity would strike back. The time had come. Earth's skies were filled with fire. Satellites and defense platforms blazed across the heavens, missiles streaking like falling stars. The Zyran flagship, a moving fortress of black steel and deadly weapons, hung above the planet like a dark sun. Its fleet surrounded Earth, vast and merciless. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the lead human ship, eyes locked on the enemy. Around him, pilots prepared for battle. Engineers monitored shields, weapons, and communications. Civilians had been evacuated, but the weight of the fight rested on these few thousand souls. Hale spoke into the comms, voice steady, full of determination. This is humanity. We refused your war. We refused to fight for you. But when your war came to our home, we did not run. We fight. All units, engage. The fleet surged forward. The first clash was brutal. Siren beams tore through human ships, and explosions lit up the void. Human vessels were destroyed, one after another. Hale's heart pounded, but he held his focus. Humanity had no choice but to adapt, quick, clever, and unpredictable. From hidden bases on the Moon and Mars, engineers fired improvised missiles and launched stealth drones. These small strikes confused the Sirens, forcing them to split their fleet. Human pilots used every asteroid, every shadow, every trick they had learned to survive. Amid the chaos, Hale activated the secret weapon, captured Siren technology, reprogrammed and ready. A single ship carried it into the heart of the enemy flagship. It was a suicide mission. Failure meant instant destruction. But success could turn the tide. The small human craft dodged beams and enemy fighters, weaving through the massive ships. On board, Hale's engineers worked with precision. The device hummed, energy building, a pulse that could tear the Siren fortress apart. And then, detonation. A blinding flash consumed the flagship. The shockwave tore through its hull, ripping ships apart. Siren formations collapsed, their fleet thrown into chaos. Humanity had struck the heart of the enemy. But the victory came at a cost. Hale's ship was lost, and thousands of brave humans had given their lives. Cities had been damaged. Families mourned. Yet Earth still stood. The remaining Siren ships retreated, scattering into the void. Humanity had survived. They had fought, not as pawns in a galactic war, but as a species unwilling to surrender. Across Earth, cheers erupted, tempered by tears. Survivors hugged, cried, and whispered thanks to those who would never return. Humanity had learned a terrible lesson. The galaxy was dangerous, and refusal alone could not protect them. But they had also learned something else. Humans were strong, clever, and unyielding. In the weeks after the battle, the galaxy began to notice. Races that had mocked Earth before now regarded it with caution. Humans had not bowed. Humans had endured. Humans had fought. Hale's words, recorded before the final attack, were remembered by all. They asked us to fight their war. We refused. But when the war came to our home, humanity did not run. Humanity endured. Humanity fought. And the galaxy will never look at us the same again. Earth rebuilt. Ships were repaired. Cities rose from the ruins. Humans prepared for the future, stronger, wiser, and ready for the challenges to come. The war had found them, but it had not broken them. Humanity had survived, and they would survive again. And somewhere, deep in the darkness of space, the Sirens waited. They had lost this battle, but they had learned, humans were not weak. Humans were dangerous. And the galaxy had just begun to see the power of a species that refused to yield. Humanity had refused the war. But the battle had found them anyway. And humanity had won.